Artwork is about feelings and emotions, and it's just crystallized in the shapes and form in a painting.
For more than 60 years, Dr. Leo Twiggs has created art that reflects life in the southeastern United States. His work with iconic symbols and images from the region is something that Panthers head coach Ron Rivera is drawn to.
Through his art, what he's been able to do is start conversations and talk about these things that previously a lot of people wouldn't talk about, and have these frank and open discussions, from racism to what the Confederate flag stood for. And most notably are the 9 pieces that he did from the Requiem for Mother Emanuel.
The mass shootings at Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina, inspired Twiggs to put paint to canvas. The Requiem for Mother Emanuel pays tribute to the 9 lives taken at the oldest African-American church in the South.
The first thing I decided to do was to show the church targeted. And the flag was the source of what he was doing. It provided the source of his hatred. I wanted to express the horror of that. And so each painting became, for me, a testimony.
This past August, as the Panthers grinded through the dog days of training camp in Spartanburg, South Carolina, Ron Rivera gathered his team captains and decided the most important lesson of the day would be learned off the field at Dr. Twiggs' exhibit.
From Cam Newton to Charles Johnson and Ryan Khalil and Luke and Greg Olson and Thomas Davis, those 6 young men got an opportunity to sit there and listen.
And it is a transition from a tragedy, a moment of terror, working your way up to a moment of salvation and forgiveness.
You could see the wheels turning in their heads, and you could just sit there and see that. And I think it struck a chord with them all.
Knowing how he transitioned each picture into like a stage of growth is kind of how we looked at it. We were mesmerized.
Viewing the paintings and the depiction of the Confederate flag profoundly impacted the players.
It's such a symbol of hatred and such a symbol of some of our worst times as a nation. But he's someone that here now in his paintings uses that flag and kind of flips it and uses that flag as a symbol of progress and uses that as a symbol of moving forward.
As it became less prominent, then it transformed. It gets smaller because it fades into the background. And so I saw that transforming into a Christian cross.
Did he tell you anything about what he wanted to achieve by taking you guys to this exhibit?
He really wanted us to just be witness to it. And I think the way our team is built and the way you look at our captains, it's a very mixed group. I feel like once you bring everybody together from a leadership standpoint, it tends to trickle down to the whole team. And I think that we really got a lot out of it as leaders, and just brought it back to the rest of the guys.
That's one of the things you always look for as a head coach is opportunities to help bring your guys together and give them positive things to talk about. This, I think, was about as positive as it gets in terms of helping to open up the lines of communications to talk about these things.
Less than a month later, Charlotte became the epicenter for racial tension following the tragic shooting death of Keith Lamont Scott. As the violent protests unfolded, so did the lessons the 6 captains learned from Dr. Twiggs' paintings.
I think our guys get the message that, again, at the end of the day, it's about how we come together. That doesn't happen all at once, but it can begin immediately, which is really what Leo Twiggs paints about, is that almost immediately after this horrible tragedy, the people, the community of South Carolina came together.
It's so strange that he brought his players over here long before the tragedy in Charlotte. It was like, in his mind, he felt that this is something that they needed to see. And I suspect because of it, when the tragedy happened in Charlotte, they were more prepared for it. That, to me, is a coach that is beyond X and O's.